What's good, everyone? It's your boy, Token Drew. We here with another edition of Listin shit. Series where I smoke some shit, talk some shit, now list some shit. Today is part 3 of my 4-part series, where I'm covering all 33 Godzilla movies, ranking them from number 33 to number 1, listing all of my favorites. Mind you, I did clump the Netflix series, all 3 of them into one movie. And that bitch was number 32 on the list, so whatever.
Shorty, you may get the bomb his head, but you ain't the first one to give it to me. I ain't a drug dealer, but it's still
What the hell was that? So, as you can tell from the list clearly, the Heisei series is my favorite era of the Godzilla movies. Blame that on the age. I was born in '85. And though I did grow up with a lot of the Showa series, the Heisei was such a huge jump from the Showa to me that graphically I was more inclined to watching the Heisei when I could. So what do I mean by Showa and Heisei? Well, take it away, me. Thanks for the handoff previous, Drew. So, the Godzilla series is broken up into 3 distinct eras. There is the Showa era that went from 1954 to 1975. The Heisei era that went from 1989 till 1995. And then the Millennium series that went from 1999 to 2004. So the reason why they're called as such is that during the Showa period, that it was when Emperor Hirohito was in office as Emperor of Japan until his death in 1989 when Emperor Akihito took over. Now, fun fact is that he stayed in office until he relinquished his title in 2019, which means that technically the MonsterVerse Godzilla series and the Millennium series are all released in the Heisei era, but because of this distinct different continuities, Millennium series is kept as such. So, the more you know. Back to you, or I guess back to me, back to us. Interesting. But that being said, let's go ahead and get this list started with my top Godzilla movies, part 3, numbers 13 through 4. Kicking it off with number 13, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, released December 11th, 1993, directed by Takao Okara. So this movie was cool. This movie has a couple cool things going for it. First off, it was the return of Baby Godzilla in the Heisei era, as well as the return of Rodan. And, of course, given by the title, the return of Mechagodzilla. The plot is interesting, not gonna lie. So, pretty much Godzilla and Rodan are fighting over this egg that just, I don't know, materialized on their island or some shit. Where did the egg come from? I don't know. But the two are fighting over ownership or parenting or something for this egg. Well, of course, humans get involved, debo the egg hatches, it's a little Godzilla. Now, this movie does pose some questions. Number 1, the egg, why? Number 2, why does it look like Godzilla? You know, in this era, Godzilla is a dinosaur that was irradiated back in the World War II era, and it became him. So where the hell did this egg come from? The music in this movie is amazing, especially for Mechagodzilla. His theme, bro. Not to mention, one of my favorite things out of the whole Heisei era is after Godzilla and Mechagodzilla's first encounter, Godzilla just has this snarl on his face, and the way the animatronics like narrow his eyes and snarl his nose up and shit, like, I was like, yo, That's dope. That is really cool what they did. So this movie introduced some interesting lore. I'm looking at you, ass brain. But we do get a new version of Rodan, Fire Rodan, who sacrifices himself to add his energy to Godzilla, which further leads to his energy output further on down the line when he becomes Burning Godzilla later on. But that act gives him his red spiral beam, which is like an upgraded version of his blue blast. So, movie's dope. Next up, number 12, Godzilla vs. Mothra 2. Released December 12th, 1992. Directed by Takao Okara. So the foreground of this movie pits Mothra against her evil, emo counterpart, Batra. And this creature is interesting. You know, it starts out in a larva stage just like Mothra. Martha? Martha! Why did you say that name? It starts out in a larval stage just like Mothra. It has these huge-ass, intense horns, these big, evil-looking eyes, and just on a rampage. What this is, it's pretty much like the destructive counterpart to Mothra's guidance, loving, heal the world. Batra's there to destroy it. And Mothra, she's been updated as well. She's newer, sleeker, has some new powers, new look, new number. Who dis? Godzilla really feels like an afterthought. It feels like this was a Mothra versus Batra movie, and they knew that it wasn't going to sell by itself, so they just threw Godzilla in there. Eventually, the two have to team up to try and stop Godzilla, and though they are victorious, it ends. I really didn't like the ending, but it is cool seeing Mothra back in the Heisei series, and this battle is important. You know, Mothra pops up a whole bunch of times in this series, whether as herself or a small version or some kind of MacGuffin. So, you know what I'm saying? And it's Mothra. You know, she hasn't shown up for a while as a villain to Godzilla, not since the original. So it's good seeing that. Number 11, Godzilla Tokyo SOS. Released November 3rd, 2002. Directed by Masakai Tezuka. So this movie is a direct sequel to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, released the year before. And the events pick up right afterwards, you know. So Godzilla, when he shows back up, he's sporting a big-ass scar on his chest, a result of the Absolute Zero cannon. You have the antagonist you have the protagonist from the first movie. She's back again, but she's not the one who's the movie's following. It's following someone different this time. But the action is frantic, you know, and it comes with I like the plot of this one better than the previous one, which is why this one is so high on the list. Mothra comes back to warn the humans to put Godzilla's bones back in the ocean where they belong. Them using Godzilla's bones as this machine to take out Godzilla is an act that pisses Mothra off, and she's like, yo, I'm gonna come through and destroy you guys if you don't do like I'm telling you to do. And this movie is also a sequel to Godzilla versus Mothra from previously, or maybe a sequel to the first Mothra movie, because they reference Mothra coming through and destroying the central area. So there's some good high stakes involved, but this movie seems to go straight into action, and that's why I like it. You know, I feel like you got to watch the two movies back to back because you get all the story and the plot and the development in the first one, and you get the big ass battle in this one. And the battle's done even better in this one than in the previous movie. In fact, I want to say this probably is one of the best Godzilla versus anyone battles. You know, it's fast, it's frantic, it has a lot of anime undertones, and that shit's always cool to see, you know. And Mechagodzilla's sleek design, or I'm sorry, I should say Kiryu's sleek design really plays to its advantage in this movie. It's also interesting seeing that Mechagodzilla has to team up with Mothra to face Godzilla this time. You know, a couple downsides though, you know, I mean, the characters are meh in the movie. And since the movie is so action heavy, it does get a bit tiring and it feels like it goes by really fast.
Step one, you gotta case the place. Put your ear to the dirt.
They do a obvious shot at Gamera with a dead turtle in the beginning with a big gash on his neck. And man, they just love roasting Gamera, don't they? Here we are, baby. Top 10. Number 10. Godzilla Resurgence, aka Shin Godzilla. Released August 25th, 2016. Directed by Hideaki Anno, who also directed Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is a batshit crazy anime if you've never seen it.
Just breathe, relax, you know I got your back. We all in this together.
So this movie has such a drastic take on Godzilla and his lore, his creation, everything. And, you know, at first glance, when I first saw it coming out, I was really skeptical of the movie, skeptical of the design of Godzilla. You know, they showed what his face looked like, and I was like, oh man, this is a big departure from what I'm used to. But this movie is so filled with satire of the Japanese government that's actually easy to follow. It's very plot driven though, you know, Godzilla is more of a consequence, as he should be, you know, it harkens back to the original. This movie ignores all previous Godzilla movies. This is a brand new take on Godzilla. So you get to see him evolve throughout the movie. His first couple evolutions are really goofy looking and might even make you laugh. I mean, I know I sure as hell did. But once Godzilla turns into his, what you assume is his final form, that shit is just awe-inspiring. Just seeing how terrifying he looks. He's supposed to emulate the burn victims of the atomic bomb. And this Godzilla is a tank. I mean, normally nothing phases him, but he flat out ignores everything they throw at him. Like, he doesn't even pay it any mind. You know, he just keeps on trucking forward. And his destruction is just amazing, especially when, and let me just say spoilers, you might want to skip ahead.
I know it gets tiring hearing about the fucking shit that we hate. It's time to turn it around and bring it back home.
When he unleashes his fire breath and when it turns into like a laser and the other shit that starts happening, that like made me shook. And I've seen all the movies, you know what I'm saying? Like, I thought I'd seen it all. And this movie blew my mind. And the ending, what they insinuate, it was haunting, you know, to say the least. Like, I never once seen a Godzilla movie where the ending sent like chills down my spine. Like, holy shit, that's crazy. You know, like, if this story continues, what would be next? You know, it actually appeals to the imagination, which is dope. Number 9, Terror of Mechagodzilla. Released March 15th, 1975. Directed by Ishiro Honda. Man, this is one of my favorite Godzilla movies, which is why this is the only campy Godzilla movie so high up on my list. This movie, first off, as a kid, I always liked this Godzilla design with the big eyes, and, you know, he was the one that the kids cheered for. I mean, hell, they literally cheered for him in the movie. Though this movie recycles a lot of elements from the previous films, such as using the fake Godzilla again, this one has Mechagodzilla teaming up with this new creature called Titanosaurus to face Godzilla. And they put a beating on his ass. Yet, Godzilla still prevails. And I like this movie because Godzilla has heart. Whereas in the last one, when he was getting his ass kicked, he had someone else to take a brunt of the attacks. This one had Godzilla just taking it and bleeding and getting beat up and still winning. You know, and this movie had a darker tone than the last one. This one didn't fare as well in the box office like the others. However, I still love this movie. This movie was the last Godzilla movie made until Return of Godzilla. So it took a 9-year hiatus, but still it came back with a vengeance with the Heisei series. But still it came back with a vengeance with the Heisei series. Speaking of which, number 8. The Return of Godzilla, or as I know it, Godzilla 1985. Released December 15th, 1984. Directed by Koji Hashimoto. Man, Godzilla returns with a new menacing look. He has fangs coming down out of his mouth. He has a deeper, longer, more aggressive roar. This movie does have a lot of warnings against nuclear activity, but then again, it came out in the 80s when I believe the Cold War or something drastic was about to go down. So, you know, of course, everything's like, no, don't do it. There's no other monsters in this film. It's just Godzilla versus the first version of the Super X, which is a pill-shaped machine that can reflect Godzilla's atomic ray back at him. This movie kicks off the Heisei series with a bang and is definitely worthy of its placement on this list. Number 7, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah 2. Released December 14th, 1991. Directed by Kazuki Omari. Man, this movie is fun. That's the best way to describe it. You have time travel, you have roller skating androids, you got Godzilla, King Ghidorah, you have an origin story for both of them. It's good times, good times. The plot of the movie is these guys come from the future because they want to stop Godzilla. So they feel like going all the way to the past when he was created is how they stop him. So they introduce an origin story for Godzilla as what's called a Godzillasaurus, pretty much, because they're not very creative sometimes with their names, and uses time travel elements to warp this Godzillasaurus to a different point in time. But when they did that, eventually a nuclear submarine hit it and it became an even bigger and stronger Godzilla. The Futurians also came with these 3 little creatures called Dorats, and their mission was to get these Dorats to fuse during the same nuclear testing that made Godzilla to make Ghidorah. This is a cool movie because this is the only time you see Godzilla and King Ghidorah one-on-one. The first time they fight, Godzilla beats his dumb ass because he is bigger and stronger, essentially kills him, their first encounter. The second time, he comes back as Mecha King Ghidorah. Still loses anyway because Godzilla's a beast. This movie does have a really powerful scene with one of the soldiers from the past, and he ends up being saved by the Godzillasaurus, and in the present he encounters Godzilla again, and there's a moment where like you think they remember each other, and then Godzilla kills him. And it's pretty cool, man. It's a somber moment because there's a lot of like character acting, you know, like small head nods from Godzilla and the guy, you know, no words needed, and then Godzilla destroys it. So I always took it as Godzilla was doing that as a, you know, well, you're gonna die anyway, I destroyed all your shit type of thing. A mercy killing almost, you know? And dude wasn't scared, dude waited for it, but it's still a pretty powerful scene in a sci-fi plot movie. Next up, number 6, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Released May 31st, 2019, directed by Michael Dougherty. Man, I did a whole ass review about this movie. Link up here. So this movie was a love letter to fans. The arguably most beautiful, in my opinion, Godzilla movie there is. The graphics are stunning. Godzilla is super powerful. Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan never ever looked better. But you know, of course, this is 2019. The last time these guys have seen the screen was 15 years ago in Godzilla Final Wars. So times have changed, and they changed for the better. This movie does have a weak ass plot and characters, you know, like I don't like any of the characters for real, but I mean, I never do, except for Dr. Serizawa. But I mean, of course, he's awesome. The movie has some crazy fight scenes. However, characters feel rushed. Even monsters feel rushed, you know. I mean, for them to do what they did in the movie, you know, destroy the characters they destroyed. They do have Burning Godzilla in the movie, or like a variation of a Burning Godzilla, but he feels a bit rushed, you know. And though it is a cool fan moment to be like, wow, at the end of the day, you know, you think back on it, you're just like, but that really wasn't his form. You know what I'm saying? It was a result of a nuclear power-up and Mothra giving her energy to him, whereas the original Burning Godzilla was literally his nuclear energy pouring out. But that's a discussion for another day. Coming soon. Spoilers. The music was great, though. It was cool that Bear McCready brought the classic themes back. So I really, really appreciated that. And I had fun seeing the whole ride. You know, like, I had fun during the movie. Sure, you can talk shit about his plots and, you know, who cares about Vera Farmiga and her character and all that other shit, but it was a fun movie. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. Next up, number 5, Gojira. Released November 3rd, 1954, directed by Ishiro Honda. / Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Released August 27th, 1956, directed by Ishiro Honda and Terry O'Morse. Normally I wouldn't give both releases, but they filmed a lot of stuff for the American version of this movie. What can I say, man? This is the granddaddy OG original kaiju movie. This movie set the tone for everything. Big monster. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Gojira did not come, think of all the shit we wouldn't have. You know, aside from the next 32, 34 movies in this franchise, you know, aside from, you know, there would be no Gamera, there would be no Power Rangers, you know what I'm saying? Like, there would be no Pacific Rim. None of that large monster shit would have ever been about if it wasn't for this movie. You gotta respect the classic. This movie is a masterpiece. You know, this movie, Ishiro Honda had a vision, and that man brought it to life. This movie was amazing. You know, as a kid, I really didn't appreciate it because it was black and white and it's kind of slow paced. But when I got back to it as an adult and watched it for the masterpiece that it is, I mean, you know, the first time Godzilla arrives and shoots his fire, that flash of light blinds those people on the boat, because that's how a nuclear explosion is, you know what I'm saying? Like, this movie has heavy, heavy tones, heavy message about the terror of nuclear war, because this came 10 years after those bombs dropped in World War II. This is a deep and somber film where Godzilla is the punishment to mankind. You see deaths in the movie. You see Godzilla at his most evil. He is an unstoppable force of nature, but he does get killed at the end of the movie, you know, by the oxygen destroyer, which was a device that was so devastating that it was the only thing that could kill him. And the creator of it died with it because he didn't want anybody else to use his creation. He wanted the memory to go with him. That's some powerful shit. Powerful movie. Truly, truly a work of art. And it changed Japanese cinema forever. It's not my number 1 movie, though. It's my number 5. Number 4, Godzilla Final Wars. Released November 29th, 2004. Directed by Ryuhei Kitamura. So at the time, this was the most expensive and biggest kaiju film ever produced by Toho. Still is. I'm not going to say it's the most expensive kaiju film ever because, you know, I mean, we had Godzilla, King of the Monsters out here in the States, but this movie was huge. This was the 50th anniversary of Godzilla, and this was them going out with a bang, because they like to go on these little 10-year breaks for Godzilla. You'll notice a theme in between the different eras. So this was the end of the Millennium era. So they decided to throw so much at us. Number 1, Godzilla is at his most powerful in this movie, just on base form. No fire upgrade or anything needed, because he is taking monsters out in just one blast. Granted, you need that to happen for a roster this big, but yo, this movie had Godzilla, Monster X / Kaiser Ghidorah, Rodan, Anguirus, Zilla, that's right, King Caesar, Salad, Kamacuras, Kumanga, Ibra, Gigan, Mothra, Hedorah, Manila, you know, Kid Jr. Godzilla, and even they took another shot at Gamera in this movie. And that's just the monsters. They decided to also do something better with the human cast. So they were taking elements from the Matrix and X-Men. So their humans were these, they were called mutants. And pretty much, you know, had these superpowers. Nothing physical, just better at fighting, you know. All like Captain America, pretty much, without the shield. And so you got this greatly choreographed kung fu fighting in the movie. You have motorcycle chase scenes. You got the monsters attacking. You have the people attacking the monsters. You know, it's pretty dope. The main bad guy, he even gets mad and like has a yellow aura and turns Super Saiyan-ish on us. Like his hair stands up and everything. It's ridiculous. And they have this actor. I don't know his name, but was the main character in the martial arts zombie movie called Versus. You ever seen that? Yo, that movie's tight. I'm gonna have to talk about that one because I don't think you know about that. But it's a fun movie. You know, it's fast paced, really cheesy, but Godzilla, he's just coming through and just regulating so many monsters. Funny story, Toho even bought the rights to Zilla just to destroy him in this movie. That's awesome. And destroy him they sure do. I wish some monsters had more screen time, but you know, it was cool seeing so many monsters from the past, like Hedorah and Manda and all those other ones. Oh, remember last episode when I said the Zillions? You need to remember those people. That's who the monsters are in this movie. The Exilians again. That's pretty cool. So overall, it's an enjoyable movie. Good time. At my number 4 spot. So there you have it, everybody. Part 3 of my 4-part series. Next time, we're going to talk about my 3 absolute favorite Godzilla movies of all time. Hands down. If this was a race, these 3 movies would lap the other ones at least once. So, thank you for tuning in all these weeks. It's been good times. Hope you guys enjoy the series, and I'm going to figure out some more stuff to talk about. Until next time, I'm your boy, Token Drew. Live up, smoke out. And game on. I'm out this bitch. Thanks for watching.
Real talk, I ain't from the block, but I got street smarts, I've seen some things. You ever seen a nigga get murdered? Have you ever seen a motherfucker hang? All these little niggas talking about gang bang, but the times have changed, I know you know this. Cops killing us, we gotta stay focused. Government does what it wants, fuck the voters. But that's the big picture. Let's get down to street level. Try to put a wall over everyone's eyes, I be blind, still go daredevil. All these niggas think they so special. Everybody claim they a trap boss. Every chick think they the baddest bitch. Yes, my real last here to piss you off. Everybody in the hood is slanging pounds. Who the hell is buying? Where the fuck the business? Honey, you may think you the baddest broad, but you just a story. Yo, nigga, I hear that dope when you make out the fire ganj. In the end, it's all just weed. Shorty, you make it, the bomb is head, but you ain't the first one to give it to me. I ain't a drug dealer, but it still got